Make it one.
That's right.
Welcome to Red Zone Extra, our weekly conversation of the Kansas City Chiefs with the Kansas City Star crew from Big O Tires. Today from beautiful Olathe, Kansas at 11815 South Black Bob Road. Let me introduce the crew in order of arrival today. I'm Blair Kerkhoff, your host.
I was here first, though.
Oh, no. I
circled the
No,
parking lot.
no, you didn't, because I saw you in my rearview mirror. But to my right, and first wannabe is Herbie Teope. The upset of the day. To my far left, Sam Mellinger.
Yep. Not
was
setting the
here.
curve, not falling behind.
The C?
To his right and my left, Vahe Gregorian.
Not too far behind.
Pause. And then Sam McDowell decided to show up.
You guys punished me with the low chair though, so.
Great to see you guys again so quickly after we met. After Sunday's loss to the Texans, less than 48 hours ago. I just wanted to, we wanted to get together today. We're going to talk to you again Thursday after the game in Denver, but we wanted to give you guys the opportunity to call, to wait. You don't call, but you call on Facebook Live. You do. You get in touch with us on Facebook
Operators are
Live.
standing by.
It's kind of calling.
They're over there standing by.
So get in touch with us. We'll answer as many comments and questions as we can get to. And I did want to pick up today where we left off on Sunday about what's going on with the Chiefs. 2 losses in a row. These are tough times. They're 4-2. They're still leading the AFC West, but things have not gone well for the Chiefs. Sam, you wrote a column. It was interesting because it's a short week and the Chiefs play on Thursday. There was a lot of availability with the Chiefs yesterday. Not only Andy Reid, who always speaks on Monday, but Patrick Mahomes, and then both Eric Bieniemy and Steve Spagnuolo, the offensive and defensive coordinators. And you took the occasion to write a column that's in today's paper. It's been online since last night. That it's, maybe the most depressing part of the Texans game was how much more of the same it was with the Indianapolis game. They said all the right things, we thought, after the Colts loss, and then they went out and practiced, nothing different. That was kind of the gist of your column, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it was the same game. It was the exact same game. Mahomes, down to Patrick Mahomes being lights out before the ankle injury and closer to human after the ankle injury. Can't stop the run. It is just a mind-numbing predictability of what the other team is going to do. It's runs between the tackle and then or go around the perimeter and make a guy miss, and it's the same stuff over and over, and it just. I know I've mentioned this here on this fine Facebook program, but they just haven't stopped the run in 4 years. And it's now, I don't know why it took this long, honestly. I mean, we've been talking about this for at least 3.5 years, that this is a way to get at the Chiefs. And it's not necessarily a time of possession and all that stuff, although that's part of it, but it's just a very inviting way to move the ball and score points.
Well, and you're right. It's been since the 2015 season, really, since the Chiefs.
The last time Derrick Johnson was good.
Right.
That was the last time they stopped the run.
And they finished in the top 10, I think, in either rushing defense or total defense.
I think they were eighth
against the run.
Yeah, eighth against the run.
Okay, so it was obviously probably the best defense of the Andy Reid era.
Yeah.
Certainly the early years were better than they have been in the last few years.
Bob Sutton's first 2-3 years, they had some good defense.
Defense seemed to be
Yep.
that was how the Chiefs were winning games.
They were carrying them. Yeah.
So certainly not been the case in the last few years, and the last 2 weeks have just been, oh my God, how can it be this bad? And so that's my question: how can it be this bad? And like I said, we talked to Steve Spagnuolo yesterday, and one of the questions he was asked, Sam, I think you asked it, is, you're six games in, and there seems to be a little regression here from where they were even earlier this year.
Well, that's, we talked about this, but I expected the defense to struggle early and get progressively better. That just makes logical sense. I believe their personnel is better than it was a year ago. I think Steve Spagnuolo at this point is an upgrade over Bob Sutton from last year. But new scheme, new players, It takes a little bit of time, but so you expect it not linear, not a straight line,
Right.
but you expect it to generally go like this. And it's sort of, I thought the first 2 weeks there were some good signs. 13 points against the Jags before the outcome was decided. 10 points total against the Raiders in the last 3 quarters were all shutout. But then it's just gone down. It just went off a cliff, and it's not early anymore. If you see those mistakes week 1, week 2, week 3, okay, that's fine. And look, it's in the playoff. We're not talking about like the divisional round or anything, but it's not early anymore.
Right.
And the other thing, it's scheme or it's personnel. It's one of the two. And Spags, what's he going to say, right? But are you 100% sure you have the personnel to be able to get this fixed? And he says, yes, they work hard, all that stuff. We haven't been questioning their work ethic. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's been scheme and talent.
Personnel, interesting, thought here. Let's talk about that. Herbie, you bring fresh eyes to this. You covered your 3rd Chiefs game, and since 2015. And what are you seeing that is? We all know what the numbers are. The rushing yards are ridiculous. The time of possession the last 2 weeks have just been, as Andy Reid said yesterday, out of whack. But what are you seeing personnel-wise? Where are they lacking on this defense?
It comes down to an identity. I find this interesting because, as you gentlemen know, and for some of the folks who read our work after Sunday's game, I had a chance to talk to Alex Okafor, who I covered in New Orleans. But the thing is, Okafor played last year on the number 2 ranked run defense in the league. And when I think of stout run defense, kind of like what Sam alluded to here, the last year that Derek Johnson was good, you've got those guys who are flying to the football. And not only are they flying to the football, they're making the plays. Too many missed tackles. When I think about this Chiefs linebacker core right now, I'm like, who is the leader amongst that group? And I just can't see it. I don't see it out there through 3 games. I don't see a definitive guy who's going to jump on everyone else. Why aren't you making these plays? Okafor says it's one thing to get to the ball carrier. It's another thing to put your hands on him. It's quite another to violently take him down and make that play. And that's what this defense is lacking right now. Your defensive ends are setting the edge. Your interior linemen are taking up the blockers. The linebackers have to flow to the action. And right now they're flowing to the action, but they're not making the plays. And that's what I'm seeing.
That's pretty unacceptable, it seems to me. Linebackers, I thought the Texans had a lot of success on the perimeter against the Chiefs on Sunday. And that's the responsibility of Darren Lee. That's, you've got guys that are supposed to make tackles in that space that weren't making tackles. Even though he ended up with 10, I think he led the team with 10 tackles on. I want to say that maybe
Tyron did.
Yeah, you're right.
But that has to be a concern, though. If your safeties and your cornerbacks are leading the team every week in tackles, one of 2 things are happening. Either they're throwing the ball a lot, or there's a lot of running, which we all know over the past month there has been a lot of running. And you don't want your safety, you don't want your cornerbacks leading the team in tackles. That's where your linebackers have to come into play. And again, I just don't see it.
One thing with Lee, and I really don't mean to pick on him because I certainly could have missed other people missing tackles, but I really feel like we've seen him not just miss tackles, but be absolutely in position, have the angle, have theoretically the leverage to make the tackle, and the guy bounces off and he's 10 yards down there. The reason I bring that up is I wonder if that's a fixable thing. Is there something just a little, as Andy Reid would say, out of whack in his technique? Shouldn't he be able to make that play? What's the difference between the guy bouncing off him and him not quite delivering there? I don't really understand.
I'm going to kind of throw this out there as a suggestion is probably even too strong of a word, but a few weeks ago we talked about, and I was actually wrong about this. We're not recording this, are we?
No, not at all. We'll edit it out.
Beth will edit it out.
In week 2, we all talked about the Lions and their ability to force fumbles a lot, and I thought it was overstated. And it turns out when we watched the game, they absolutely were making a point to that, to sort of, there's probably this spectrum of be a really good tackling team and then try and punch the football out all the time. And they were way over here, and you thought it made a lot of sense because when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes, try and steal a couple of possessions. This team is such a bad tackling team that I almost wonder if they need to start going more towards this end of the spectrum. And they did have 3. They had takeaways.
Yep.
But do you just try and punch the ball out and force some turnovers? Because you can't be on this end of the spectrum. You apparently don't have the personnel to be on this end of the spectrum.
Or gamble more,
Right.
or call more,
Yeah.
more exotics. Just be different, because what's being, executed now is a massive fail. Massive fail.
Yeah, they aren't blitzing that much either.
They're not.
They really aren't.
And I thought that was part of the deal with Spags, right?
Yeah, I thought Spag did make a point that there are plays that look to us like not blitzes that actually are,
Yeah,
because
he
they've
did
come
say
against
that.
run plays. But I know there's also some. I mean, you can measure everything now, right? But the Chiefs were. I'm not going to quote it exactly because I don't remember exactly, but somewhere in the 20s, somewhere around the mid-20s in blitz percentage in the NFL. They're not doing that. I thought the stunts were going to be a big thing, and I thought that was a place that Frank Clark, he had a lot of success with that in Seattle. And they've been doing a little bit more of it in recent weeks, but it's still not close to what I had expected.
I also think that the run game, or their lack of success in stopping the run game, is taken away from their pass rush as well. You've got guys on the edges that you don't really see coming off the edge for, maybe it's fear of creating the hole that's if you come off the edge, that's going to create on the back end. But that was the one strength of this defense last year. As bad as this defense was, at least they could put pressure on the quarterback, and now that's gone too.
Yeah, well, and that was one of the themes going into the weekend was Deshaun Watson was sackable. He had been sacked 18 times this year.
Only 4 quarterbacks in the NFL have been sacked more than him.
And the Chiefs didn't come close, did they? They
No.
get 1 or 2 hits on him?
2 quarterback hits.
Yeah,
just two.
But
Just 2 quarterback
42,
hits.
42 passes, though. They had a lot of chances.
Well, but they had given up no sacks the week before, which makes me wonder whether the Texans had shored something up too, although they lost a key player.
I saw this, again, you can measure everything. The week before, I forgot who they played, but
Falcons.
The Falcons. It was the fastest that Deshaun Watson has gotten the ball out in his career, and I think that was part of it. They had some of those against the Chiefs, but I don't think that didn't seem like a big part of the game plan.
I agree.
And going into that game, the fine folks at Pro Football Focus ran this for me, and they saw that the Chiefs' opponents had the 6th longest time to throw in the NFL. So that to me is a big problem when teams are taking their time to get the ball out and you're still not getting to them. You're not hitting, you're not hurrying, you're not affecting.
And that's not going to get better with the absence of Chris Jones.
No.
Because that's their guy. That's their pass rushing specialist. They replaced Chris Jones and Xavier Williams with Derek Nottie and who was the other tackle?
Saunders.
And Colin Saunders, the rookie. Neither one known as a pass rusher, just run pluggers, and of course that didn't happen either. So.
And you think that Frank Clark's seen a lot of attention with Chris Jones on the field.
Yeah.
Right. Off the field, it's even greater.
I heard he actually graded out well. Frank Clark did on him.
Pro Football Focus was in love
Loved
with
him.
him.
And it was so bizarre because he had 1 tackle in 80-some snaps.
On
And
the
maybe-
first play was that one
Very
tackle.
first play, and it was a great play. I mean, forced fumble, recovered fumble.
Forced it and recovered, yeah.
Game-changing sort of play, and certainly that has to tilt the scale. But
But it was an
There's
89
a lot
rush
of-
rating, right? Wasn't that?
Yeah.
run
Yeah.
defense rating.
And
yeah.
what the other thing that you were looking at yesterday that stood out was the worst rated guy on the offense,
Yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
The where the rubber meets the road pick for somebody last week.
Hey, my where the road meets the rubber. He didn't even play on offense. Wisniewski.
You're right. That's right. We're still buds.
Where the rubber,
Thank you.
where the rubber peeled out.
Yes, pretty much.
on the road.
All right, so I mentioned the Jones injury and the one to Xavier Williams. Also, Anthony Hitchens out. And going back to something we were talking about Deshaun Watson. 2 weeks earlier in the loss to the Carolina Panthers, he was effusive in his praise of Luke Kuechly, the linebacker. He said Luke Kuechly took away the middle of the field and just changed the way the Texans could attack the Panthers, and Houston ended up losing that game. Chiefs linebackers didn't take away anything. They just either incapable or not schemed to do anything in the middle of the field. So I thought that was interesting too. It also is quite a compliment to Luke Kuechly, and we all know what a great linebacker that guy is.
There was a stat on that. I think Darren Lee and Damian Wilson gave up all 12 targets that they saw.
I think that's right. Yeah, 12 for 12.
Yeah.
Not so good.
Yeah.
Not so good.
We pointed that out after the game. The Texans were kind of running these short, flat routes and just saying, try and tackle us.
Yeah. Good game plan.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So we mentioned those injuries on the defensive side. I think, you know, the ones on the offensive side, all this matters. And I want to make a larger point about this in a moment. But the Eric Fisher, you know, injury is just it's just killing him. Isn't it? I mean, it's just killing him. Who'd have thought that he would, you know, a guy that has been, you know, not criticized, but sort of, you know, he had the misfortune of being the 1-1 in 2013. First round, first pick, and having to live up to that idea. But I think he's developed into a good tackle on the left side, and he is noticeable. His absence is noticeable, don't you?
There's a huge drop off. I think what's ridiculous, we're up in the press box, and whenever Cam Irvin makes a mistake, you always hear it in the press box. Oh, there's Irvin again. It is a noticeable difference. But the problem is, I don't think they had that many options to consider there at left tackle outside of Irving. I mean, you could, in theory, probably kick out Martinez Rankin to left tackle and then maybe move Irving inside, but they just don't have the options there, and it's very noticeable.
Yeah. So so the left side's just new, right? With Irving's not new, but he's starting a tackle for the first time, and Rankin, you know, left guard. It's not ideal for the Chiefs, and they noticed they had Mahomes rolling out away from that a lot on Sunday, trying to defeat that. And the other absence, of course, Sammy Watkins. We asked Andy Reid about that yesterday. Any hope of Watkins returning this week?
I think it's going to be a challenge because it is a short week, and we're talking about a hamstring injury. Hamstrings tend to linger, and you know that's one of the NFL injuries you hate to hear about. That and high ankle sprain, because there's really no timetable for it. You got 2 days. He did a walkthrough yesterday. He was, quote, limited, but it's a projection. And so the big day is today. Is he going to be able to get on that field? But I don't think you want to risk putting Sammy Watkins out on a short week on Thursday Night Football, that high altitude too.
Right. Look, the Chiefs have a lot of injuries. They do. Maybe more than the average NFL team right now. However, they did get Tyreek Hill back. And Mahomes is playing. I know, Vahe, you wrote that it's worth asking the question whether Mahomes should be playing. And has your mind changed on this at all?
The key factor here is we can't drill into the extent of the injury the way the Chiefs can, right? I mean, they know the extent of the injury in ways that they would never share, and all we can do is observe what we see out there, and we see that not only is he a little hobbled enough that he's doing some things that are uncharacteristic, but also I believe this with all my Twitter medical degree can tell me, is that I think by being this injured, it leaves him vulnerable to X amount more injury. So Andy Reid basically has dismissed this each time I've asked it, and I think with conviction and with knowledge but the theory with them is if he's good enough to play, well, we're going to play him. But I don't think that actually answers the real question, which is just because he's good enough to play, are you sure that this isn't eroding the situation and making him worse off? And the dilemma, of course, is always going to be the macho NFL versus, let's just wait. That's one. But really, the essence of it is need to get the pole position for the playoffs, need to win, need to get in the playoffs. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter how healthy he is late in the season, right? That's the crux of the real problem. And right now, after they've lost a couple in a row, I'm sure it becomes less even realistic for them to consider that they won't play him.
Can I just underline that real quick at the risk of just being like the stats guy today? We know that he was 10 of 16 before the ankle and 9 of 19 after. Bill Barnwell from ESPN went back and watched. He's hurt the ankle in 3 games: Jags, Colts, and then Texans. In those 3 games, the passer rating was 141.1, I think, before the ankle injury, and 80 after. So he is like the best quarterback of all time with 2 ankles. And then I think Barnwell used the line, and then like Andy Dalton without. I mean, it's a huge drop. And look, Andy Dalton, there's a big drop between that and Matt Moore. You know, a guy who was coaching his old high school 2 months ago. Like, you know, that's part of this math too. But you're right. Like, would you rather have 10-6 or even 9-7, but you get in the playoffs and Mahomes is healthy, or would you rather have 11-5 or 12, whatever, but Mahomes is gimping around?
Yeah.
I know which one I'd rather have.
Yeah, I think I do too. And so now the reason it comes up again now, of course, is they're on a short week. And these guys typically, I mean, you guys can all speak to this as well or better than I can, but typically, even for the quarterback, it's 48 hours till your body's about okay after a game.
I would add to that a short week with a makeshift left side of the offensive line against a team in its stadium that's had two really good, which been good defensively all year, but it's coming off of 2 straight wins in which it's been terrific defensively. Coming off a shutout last week.
13 points, I think, the week before that.
Yeah, 7 sacks too. I think in the Chargers win. So
I didn't think that the Chiefs' offensive line had a great day on Sunday, but rewatching the game, I thought Mahomes abandoned the pocket or just slid over to the right side, particularly constantly before he needed to. Yeah. When there wasn't pressure coming from the left side, it just almost became his natural tendency to start moving and at one point there were a couple plays that actually Tyreek Hill was open on the left side, but because he was sliding right, he had no prayer of even looking at that read, because why would you? And I also thought he missed a few passes that were a little atypical of him, but at one point actually the broadcast, when you rewatch that feed of it, showed his footwork, and he throws a slant pattern completely off of his back foot. I mean, his left foot, which is the ankle that's injured, is his plant foot, just goes off to the side as he throws it, and he kind of angles off his back foot. Now, we've seen him have some weird arm angles before that make sense, but this was a play where he had all the time in the world to make the right throw.
I remember that play. The interception was off his back foot too, wasn't it?
Yeah. And there was a pass to Demarcus Robinson that he was wide open on an 8-yard curl on the left side that he throws it in the dirt, and you wondered if he didn't put enough on it for that exact same reason. Again, it's hard for us to know exactly why a pass doesn't happen, but we haven't seen him miss a lot of passes over the past couple of years, and I thought he missed a lot of throws on Sunday.
Okay, a lot of people have asked, and they asked us after the game Sunday and are asking again today about just Chiefs personnel and roster composition and how this team has been put together since Brett Veach has become the general manager. I'm going to refer to the index card of knowledge here because I've got it all written down. Let's see. So let's go over just players, that Brett Veach has. Let's go through the draft, last 2 drafts, right? So in 2018, this was the draft for the Chiefs. Breland Speaks, Derek Nottie, Dorian O'Daniel, Armani Watts, Tremont Smith, Khalil McKenzie. Speaks, of course, is out for the season with injury. Tremont Smith is gone. Khalil McKenzie gone. Derek Nottie, I think there's still some hope. There's some upside hope for him.
I think he's been an okay player.
I see moments with him, right? I mean,
for what they want, run stuffer in the middle. Yeah.
Dorian O'Daniel?
He's hurt.
Yeah.
He's been hurt,
been out,
but when he hasn't been hurt, he hasn't been much of a contributor. Special teams only, right?
Last year, it looked like he was going to be.
I thought
I've been
so
surprised,
too.
yep.
Yeah.
Armani Watts.
Special teams. That's since
a-
I've been
his
back.
contribution.
It's strictly
Yeah, right.
special teams.
Okay, this year's draft, McCole Hardman, Juan Thornhill, Colin Saunders, Rashad Fenton, Darwin Thompson, Nick Allegretti. Hardman certainly, a contributor. Juan Thornhill, I think, getting better each week, had the end zone.
I'm high on
Did you just drop a get better each week?
Yep.
You've been in the locker room too much.
Colin Saunders made his first start on Sunday, still early on him. Fenton hasn't probably progressed as quickly as they have wanted him to. Darwin Thompson's, a standout in training camp, can't get on the field now. And Allegretti, the second offensive lineman in 2 years they've drafted and really haven't gotten much production if you count.
Seems like a red shirt situation.
Yeah.
Yes,
it does.
Khalil McKenzie being the other one. Yep. Okay, and so that's just the, those are the draft picks. The free agents, so just some, okay? Andrew Wiley, Sammy Watkins, Anthony Hitchens, Damian Williams, Ben Neiman, Darrell Williams, Yelder Pringle. Those were in 18. 19, of course, the big money ones, Tyrann Mathieu. Frank Clark was a trade, but Damian Wilson, Okafor, Rashad Breeland, Blake Bell, Matt Moore, LaShawn McCoy, Morris Claiborne, and then just last week, Wisniewski and Terrell McClain. As I read those names, and we talked about the injuries earlier, and the Chiefs are dealing with a lot of them, is there a comment to be made on the quality of depth here? I mean, this team is, it's always the next man up philosophy, but I don't know. We talk about how much of a turnstile the left side of the offensive line is, and the new linebackers, they're not getting much production there. Frank Clark, the $63 million man, is not statting well. I think Tyrann Mathieu has been certainly playing well.
He's a good player, man.
Yep. What's the bottom line here for, what's the comment on Brett Veach and the Brett Veach roster?
Yeah, the offensive line depth, I'm not going to knock them. I don't think anybody has offensive line depth. I don't think most teams have 5 offensive linemen that they feel good about. I'm not going to knock them for that too much. The linebackers is a huge problem. Anthony Hitchens got a contract bigger than, and even I've heard some people defend it within the Chiefs organization. It's kind of like, well, yeah, maybe it's too much money, but it's like going to the airport. And if you got to feed your family, you're paying too much for it, but you got to eat. So it's sort of that. But he hasn't knocked the salary down 25%, and he hasn't lived up to it.
Right.
I thought Dorian O'Daniel, I thought they had something there. I thought that was going to be a piece that they could move around.
Really good athlete.
Like I just thought that, and I don't know.
From a championship program, you just thought he had the pedigree.
Yeah. My biggest, I think the secondary is a lot better. I think the coverage, as much as I think they're still looking for a cornerback, I think the coverage this year has been pretty good, at least in the secondary.
Top half of the league.
Yeah. It's the problem in the coverage has been what I think you were talking about, Sam, about in the flats and just attacking those linebackers, and those linebackers are Brett Veach's. I think up front they're okay, but the linebackers are just getting lit up.
Along the lines of the linebackers, what happened to Reggie Ragland? What happened to the guy we saw at the end of the 2017 season? What I thought he was Derek Johnson light in 2017.
Speed. I think speed.
Yeah, he got slow.
Yeah, he just doesn't have enough speed. I don't think that they want to throw him out on the field. But to kind of piggyback off of what Sam said, I just wonder how many of their problems would be fixed if they had better linebackers. It sort of goes to the crux of the NFL, which is when you have a weakness, it'll get exposed and expose everything at times. And we don't have linebackers that can cover or stop the run. It's creating problems on both sides of it. It's creating problems up front because they're not helping on the run. It's creating problems in the back because they're passing in the flats all the time, and they're not really great at blitzing like you guys mentioned. They're not doing a lot of it. So I think most of the problems I think start with that group.
Another quick guy I just wanted to speak to while you're bringing up the acquisitions is, and he was hurt Sunday, but Kendall Fuller. I mentioned to Sam during the game, I feel like he's not, you never see his name called, and I don't know, I don't feel like he's making certainly any big plays. I don't feel like he's a difference maker in any way. Now, sometimes you don't see a guy's name called because he's just kind of getting the job done, and it's sort of the thankless service. I'm not sure I can distinguish the difference, but I thought he'd be more of a playmaker. He had a little bit of that reputation in Washington.
Top-rated slot corner.
Yeah.
The last year in Washington.
When they were out of him,
Yep. We didn't mention the players acquired in trade, so I did mention Frank Clark, but Fuller, Charvarius Ward, Jordan Lucas, Austin Ryder in 18, Clark, Agba, Darren Lee, Rankin, and Sinet. I think that's how he pronounces it, the offensive linemen. So just to complete the Brett Veach roster, which is about half of, more than half, I guess, of who were the 53. I don't know. Listen, there are players available. Zach Brown's out there, right? Just right after the game on Sunday, the Eagles cut him after he ripped Kirk Cousins before the game, and then got torched, and now he's on the market. Should the Chiefs be in the market for a linebacker? Is it a personnel thing? Is it a scheme thing? Should if you haven't heard anything, have you? If the Chiefs are,
I have not, but Zach Brown. What concerns me about Zach Brown is the team that cut him, which obviously comes from the Andy Reid tree. And if you're Andy Reid and you know Doug Peterson just cut Zach Brown, are you willing to take that chance? Because obviously they're tight. I do agree they do need to find a linebacker, and you got the trade deadline coming up here in a couple of weeks. Are the Chiefs going to be in the market? Perhaps. Teams always are going to turn over the stones, but that is a position that you absolutely have to upgrade. I do agree with everyone here on this esteemed panel. You do absolutely need to upgrade the linebacker position. You got to find a playmaker. You got to find someone who's going to fire people up. When you think of the elite defenses around the National Football League, they all have a couple things in common. They do make plays, but they also have that leader among that group, and 9 times out of 10, you're willing to bet it's the linebacker. You mentioned Luke Kuechly there earlier. You can go around the league. Chicago Bears with their elite run defense. You got Roquan Smith up there. In New Orleans, the number 2 ranked run defense. You've got DeMario Davis and A.J. Klein. And the list goes on. But you got to find that guy.
It's supposed to be Hitchens.
Yeah.
That's how this was supposed to work. And Hitchens has all of the character, the brains, the personality part of it. He's got that wrapped up. But he's hurt right now and just hasn't performed enough. Derek Johnson had he was the whole package, man.
Yes.
He had all sides of that. They're really missing that.
The linebackers played well in the first 2 weeks. Damian Wilson had
Did the great force
maybe
fumble
played
against-
as well as anybody did on the defense for those first 2 weeks.
I agree, totally.
Look at their total defensive output in those 2 games. It's not a
Yeah.
coincidence that when the linebackers play well, I think the whole defense plays significantly better.
Because you're able
and
to
they fell off. And
Right.
what's happened the last 4 weeks, right?
Yeah.
When your linebackers are playing well, it's because everybody else is doing their job. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. Your defensive ends are setting that edge. Your interior linemen are taking up the gaps to free up the linebackers to flow to the action. And that's what you want. And we just don't see it.
Jack Hilliard suggests the defense simply is not aggressive. I kind of agree with that. I see that.
Yeah.
Steve Spagnuolo said it yesterday, the mano a mano quote.
Yeah.
When you were trying to stop the run, it's not happening.
Yep.
It's not happening. There's not enough aggression. So I thought again, it was great to hear from coordinators the day after a game. You never get that. That was refreshing to hear. I want to break out this stat for you. In 6 of the 7 years that Andy Reid's been the head coach of the Chiefs, they have had losing streaks, right? More than 1 in a row. At least 2 in a row. More than 1 in a row. At least 2 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the 8th losing streak that they've been on. Never longer than 5. Remember the 2015 first couple of months of 2015.
I do.
And
2017.
And they had 4 in 2017, a 4-game streak.
6 or 7.
Yeah, and 6 or 7. They've had winning streaks of 9, 10, and then 5 in each of the previous 3 years, and their 4 games, 4-0 start this year. So it's not terribly unusual to lose a couple games in a row in the NFL. I know that there is a fans are angry, fans are kind of disillusioned about this, but losing a couple in a row in the NFL happens. It just does. However, and I believe I read this in Sam Mellinger's column today, losing a third in a row might cause some panic.
There's no question. Yeah, because it's perspective, right? And we are talking about a 4-2 first place team with the 24-year-old reigning MVP at quarterback. So it's not all doom and gloom. But I do think that I think Andy Reid, maybe I'm giving him too much credit here, but I think he is who is to blame and credit depending on how this goes. Because they've been in much worse than this. 1-5 when we were doing Facebook Live literally in front of a trash can because the Chiefs had just lost because their running back was stripped by a teammate on the final drive.
Butt fumble.
Yeah. 6 of 7 in 2017. Right?
Mahomes, I love that Mahomes referred to that yesterday. Did you see that? He was on obviously that was his first year in the program. He just remarked how special it was to see him crawl out of that.
Yep.
They actually lost first place late in the season that year. Had to get it back with a win over the Chargers in a prime time game. So I thought that was he's paying attention.
And they were hot garbage there that stretch. That was the stretch that you brought up a couple. The Jets, the Bills, the Giants. I forgot the exact order, but those 3. So and I believe that Andy Reid is not uniquely but particularly equipped for these moments. Not just his track record brings a certain, people are going to react to him differently than they do other guys, but he's also so steady and he's confident. He treats players like men, all these things. I think he is equipped to deal with this, and I think he's what's going to decide how long this lasts.
You know, I looked up some stats yesterday from Super Bowl teams just to kind of see what they go through over the course of the season. And over the last 14 years, 9 of them have lost back-to-back games at some point during the season. And half of them have either lost back-to-back games twice or had at least a 3-game losing streak. I mean, the Herbie Saints lost 3.
Herbie Saints?
They lost the last 3 games of the season, their Super Bowl year. There was a couple other teams lost 4 in a row over the course of the season. So
You go through this stuff.
I guess
You just
maybe-
go through
exactly.
I think the Patriots last year got blowed out by the Lions.
They lost back-to-back twice.
Yeah, they got blowed out
And
by
they lost-
the Jaguars and then
They
blowed out
lost
again
5
by the
games last year. None of those teams made the playoffs.
Yeah.
But to circle back to that number 3, we always make the joke in journalism that twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a trend story. And this one particularly so because think about this too. What's Andy's record against the division? It's like 20-3.
It's ridiculously good.
It's phenomenal.
He's got a very good road record. They've hardly been infallible at Arrowhead, but they've been better than most teams on the road. So those two things going together makes you feel like, all right, let's see what happens this week. Then, as Sam said, then you go to complete absolute panic if they lose.
I was going to say, but Mahomes 2-5 in primetime regular season games.
So we
That's
just
such a
lost for the
weird
first time. That was his first daytime loss the other day.
Yes,
That was
his first daytime loss.
I can't make any sense of that. I'm still, that's got to be small sample size, right? I know you generally play better opponents in prime time.
Does he have a night vision problem?
All right, so we're winding down. So this is the time when we identify where the rubber meets the road.
boy.
Our players that we think will stand out in the Chiefs game on Thursday night at Denver, along with the rubber meets the road. Let's add a game prediction as well. We've gotten away from that the last couple of weeks. We just assumed the Chiefs were going to win.
I would have picked the Texans.
Would you have picked the Texans?
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I would have picked the Colts and the Texans. But I don't think the Chiefs are 3.5-point favorite, and I think the line has stayed the same
Yeah,
since.
it's been pretty steady, yeah.
Okay, so let's do that. Rubber stars, projected star of the game, and the rubber meets the road, and a prediction. Herbie, you're the man.
I'm going back to the offensive line. What impressed me the most, even though the Chiefs lost in Week 6, you barely heard J.J. Watt's name, and that's largely because of Mitchell Schwartz. The Broncos are on a 2-game win streak because of their defense, and that defense starts with Von Miller, but I think Schwartz is going to put Miller on lockdown and look for the Chiefs to secure their 8th straight win against the Denver Broncos.
That's an amazing stat, too, isn't it? Do they cover?
Yeah. Do they cover? I'm going to say they cover.
Okay, wow.
They cover.
Okay, Sam?
I was actually going to go with Schwartz too, I mean, he historically these last couple of years has completely silenced one of the absolute best pass rushers in the game. I would guess that Von Miller's least favorite game every year is twice, obviously, but playing against Mitchell Schwartz. So I think Schwartz has a big day, and without Chubb on the other side of the line, the Schwartz matchup is highlighted even further. But I think the Chiefs win, but I actually think that the Broncos cover. I think it's going to be a 3-point game.
Okay, and to amplify when the Chiefs signed Mitchell Schwartz, that was the big selling point. He had so much success against Von Miller when the Browns played the Broncos. Vahe?
I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill because
That's a good call.
And Mahomes is 3-0 against the Broncos. I foresee them winning, but it'll be tight. I think barely cover, maybe like 28-24.
Good vibe place for him. He his first W there. Sam?
I was going to go with Mitch Schwartz too.
It's good. No, it's all good.
But I'm going to go a little off script then, and I'll go with Andy Heck. Because it's not just, I wonder if they move Vaughn, and flip him to the other side. And I think that with the problems that the Chiefs have had up front and facing, those grown men that the Broncos have, I think they've got to get creative a little bit. And I don't know if that means more time for Anthony Sherman, who really hasn't been part of the offense in recent weeks. Maybe you start chipping with Blake Bell, something like, just something to slow down that off. So I think it's on the coaching staff a little bit to help out that line.
Do the Broncos have? I just wonder if Von Miller has too much pride to move. Because that's sort of a.
And I feel like he's got veto power a little bit.
Yeah. There's rumors of him on the trading block this week. That was Well, Von Miller, I can't see him in anything.
They can
other
find
than the Broncos.
interested teams. I think. That would not be a problem.
Yeah. You know, my where the rubber meets the road,
Patrick Mahomes.
I'm going to go off Patrick
Wow.
Mahomes.
What the?
This has been Herbie. I'm glad Herbie mentioned this. 8 in a row. Chiefs over the Broncos, or they're going for 8 in a row. Or
They're
is
going
it-
for 8 in a row.
Okay.
Yes.
So they haven't lost in Denver since 2014. It started in 2015 when Peyton Manning threw 4 interceptions. They had to get him out of the game.
I
remember that
Yeah,
game.
they thought he was done.
They benched him.
Goofy things have happened to the Broncos against the Chiefs there. This was the Tyreek Hill breakout game where he had many, but this was the game where he and DeAnthony Thomas held hands going into the end zone on one of the returns. And
Left-handed pass game.
Charkandrick West
Charkandrick.
down the seam.
yes,
Yep.
down the seam. And Patrick Mahomes was first start and first victory. My rubber meets the road pick is Harrison Butker, the kicker, because in 2 of those wins, they needed a field goal at the gun to win the game. Cairo Santos off the upright one of those years.
Yeah.
Primetime
Thought they
game.
missed.
That's right. Yes.
That picture.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
He missed it.
that's right.
And then, of course, Butker in the Mahomes start won the game with a walk-off field goal. So I'm going to go with Butker. This offense still, I see him having problems in the red zone too, stalling out, and I can see Butker getting on the field a lot for field goals here. So that'll do it for us here at Big O Tires in Olathe. Thanks to everybody. Beth, appreciate it. To Jack and Ann, thanks for coming by. I know you live in Olathe. It's great to see you guys. We will talk to you again after the Chiefs-Broncos game Thursday night on Red Zone Extra.